Did you know over 200,000 murder cases remain unsolved in the US alone? That's more than the population of Salt Lake City. Each of those cases holds pain, heartbreak, and a trail of questions. But some mysteries go beyond tragedy. They defy science, they mock reason, and some don't even leave behind a body. This is the story of one such case, a murder mystery so strange, so haunting, and so filled with contradictions that it doesn't feel real. And yet every single part of it happened. It was Christmas Eve, 1945, in the small Appalachian town of Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sauter family, a well-known, well-loved Italian-American family, was gathered around the fireplace. George Sauter, a successful businessman and outspoken critic of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, was home with his wife Jenny and 9 of their 10 children. One son, Joe, was away serving in the military. That night, the children were excited. Gifts had been opened, holiday cookies devoured. The warmth of family wrapped the house like a blanket. But what started as a night of joy turned into a living nightmare. Sometime after midnight, a loud bang shattered the silence. Jenny woke to the smell of smoke. Flames quickly swallowed the staircase, cutting off access to the upstairs bedrooms, where 5 of the Sauter children had last been seen: Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny Jr., and Betty, ranging in age from 5 to 14. George smashed a window, slicing open his arm, and rescued the children downstairs, but the ones upstairs were unreachable. He ran outside to grab a ladder. It was gone. He ran to start his truck to drive close enough to climb in through the window. Neither of his trucks started, even though they'd worked fine the day before. The fire spread like it had a purpose. Within 45 minutes, the house was gone. And so were 5 of the Sauter children. The official ruling? Faulty wiring, a tragic accident. But even in the hours after the fire, nothing made sense. The family couldn't find any remains. No skulls, no bones, no ash-covered fragments of their 5 children. Jenny raised the first doubts. She'd read enough to know that even bodies burned in house fires left behind bone fragments, and the house hadn't burned long or hot enough to cremate 5 people. In fact, the kitchen appliances had survived. Books were found half-burned. If the fire wasn't hot enough to melt a toaster, where were the bones? George and Jenny began to remember the oddities from the weeks before the fire. A man had come to the house looking for work. He wandered into the fuse box area and warned George that one day, this house would burn down due to faulty wiring. But George had just had the home rewired and inspected. Another man was seen parked along Route 21, watching the Sauter children walk home from school. He never spoke, never moved, just sat and watched. And then there was a mysterious phone call Jenny received the night of the fire. A woman's voice, asking for someone who didn't live there. When told she had the wrong number, she and hung up. The chilling call happened just minutes before the flames began. The investigation was rushed and sloppy. Fire Chief F.J. Morris claimed the blaze was electrical, despite evidence suggesting otherwise. More puzzling, he claimed the children's bodies had been cremated. But when Jenny consulted with local crematoriums, she learned that human bones don't incinerate, even in professional ovens running for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees. The Sauter house burned for only 45 minutes. And yet investigators concluded, without any remains, that the children had died. The case was closed. But the Sauters couldn't let go. Jenny began studying fire science. She even burned chicken bones, beef bones, pork bones in her own stove, desperate to prove that bones would remain. George, meanwhile, believed that his children were still alive and had been taken. In 1947, 2 years after the fire, they hired a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley. What he uncovered was disturbing. Fire Chief Morris had allegedly found a human heart at the scene and secretly buried it in a dynamite box. Tinsley pressured Morris, who then confessed, but when the box was unearthed and examined by a coroner, it turned out to be a cow's liver, untouched by fire. Someone had planted it. Someone wanted the family to believe they'd buried their children. And then came the letter. It arrived in 1967. No return address, just a black and white photo of a young man in his 20s. On the back was scrawled, "Louis Sauter, I love brother Frankie. Ill boys." A90132. Jenny was certain. It was her son, Louis. Same cheekbones, same eyes. George agreed. They hired another PI to track the source. The man took the assignment and vanished. Never heard from again. The photograph was never traced. No one knew who had sent it or why. Then in 1965, something even stranger happened. A man knocked on the Sauter family's door. He introduced himself as Mark, but said he believed he was actually Maurice Sauter. He said he had grown up in a foster home, that he had no memories before the age of 6. He claimed that nightmares had driven him to seek out his past, and that therapy had uncovered fragments, names, a Christmas fire, a mother named Jenny. Jenny and George invited him in. At first it felt like a miracle, but then doubts crept in. He looked slightly different. His story had gaps. George asked for a blood test. The man agreed and disappeared before it could happen. Gone, just like that. Every time they got close to a lead, it slipped away. But the Sauters never stopped searching. For over 40 years, they kept a massive billboard on Route 16 near their home, with photos of the children and a message. What was their fate? Kidnapped? Murdered? Burned? It became a haunting landmark, a reminder that something was deeply wrong. Even when the rest of the world moved on, the Sauters never did. George died in 1969, still holding on to hope. Jenny passed away 20 years later, keeping the children's rooms exactly as they were in 1945. She never stopped wearing black. Today, the Sauter mystery is one of the most enduring and baffling cases in American history. No remains have ever been found, no one has ever been arrested, and no clear answers have ever emerged. Every piece of evidence on its own seems dismissible, but when you line them up, the missing ladder, the silent trucks, the threats, the phone call, the heart that wasn't a heart, the jawbone that didn't match, the photograph, the man claiming to be Maurice, something feels designed. As if the fire was never meant to destroy, but to erase. And maybe the wildest part of all isn't that 5 children vanished without a trace. It's that someone may have wanted it that way. So what do you think happened to the Sauter children? Were they kidnapped in a revenge plot? Was it a political hit? Or something darker? Something we're not meant to understand? Drop your theories in the comments. This story has haunted people for nearly 80 years. Maybe your voice will be the one that finally helps make sense of it. A sub to the channel will be so sweet. Remember to like and share to your family and friends. Thank you. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, some mysteries aren't just unsolved, they're unsolvable.